This is Rick Rule for Rule Investment Media and the Rule Classroom, sponsors of the Rule Natural Resources Investment Symposium, held July 7 through 11 in Boca Raton, Florida, or from the comfort and convenience of your own home via live stream. Whether you attend live or via live stream, we're going to give you 50 hours of valuable programming in 4 days, more than you can possibly absorb. To that end, we will have the full conference recordings available to those of you who attend live and via live stream, which you're going to need. Also, to that end, we interview every exhibitor and every speaker at the conference before the conference so that you can familiarize yourselves with the themes and opportunities that will be available at the conference, allowing you to make the best of your time before the conference and at the conference. Note, too, that at our conference, every public company exhibitor is owned in my own portfolio. Every exhibitor is vetted. That doesn't guarantee, sadly, that every stock I buy goes up. What it does guarantee you is that every single exhibitor on my floor has been vetted. My exhibitors are content too, not just advertisers. Understand that that's a conflict of interest. I own all the exhibitors, including the one that you're about to hear from. It's my great pleasure to introduce you to Zach Flood, a young man who I've known so long that I did a lot of business with his dad. Fruit doesn't fall from the tree. His dad was a great geologist. His dad was an absolutely great entrepreneur. And Zach shares those attributes. Zach, first of all, thank you for your ongoing efforts on behalf of natural resource investors, in particular myself. And thank you, too, for your support of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thanks, Rick. Really always appreciate our chats, and thanks for including us.
Start by telling that portion of the audience who doesn't know you something about your background. How did you get where you are? What sort of specific skill sets do you have? What have you done in the past that would lend credibility to what you're about to tell us about your?
Yeah, of course. I'm a geologist, as you mentioned. I kind of grew up in the business. My father was also in the mineral exploration and development industry. So I've been doing this since I was 18 years old. We started Kenorland when I was around 30 years old. Now it's about nine years ago. So we've been at it for some time now. The company was really founded on first principles in terms of grassroots exploration. We set out to make new mineral discoveries, and how we went about that is a little bit different than most juniors. We built the company through project generation mainly, which I'm sure you'll all learn more about. But essentially, we go out and we generate large scale exploration concepts, and then we attract third parties to fund the exploration. And because of that, we've been able to achieve a huge amount of regional and grassroots exploration on other people's dimes, and that helps us maintain a really tight share structure, even though we're focused on really early stage, high risk exploration. A bit about my background. Again, I worked in the Ivanhoe Group for a number of years doing this type of work, project generation and business development. So I really learned how to think on a bigger scale there. Robert Friedland goes out all over the world and has made a number of world-class discoveries. And a lot of that is because of the people involved in those companies and the way they think on a global scale, and the way that they approach grassroots exploration. Again, I think scale is the most important aspect here, and you need to go big, and you need to be able to finance all this exploration. And so we've done it in a really creative way in Kenorland, which we'll talk more about.
Well, there's a lot to unpack there. For the audience, for those part of the audience who don't know what the Ivanhoe Group is, they have probably been the most successful exploration group on the planet in terms of generating wealth for shareholders over time, as Zach points out, by thinking big, by thinking outside the box, by thinking well. A spectacular job. There can be no better apprenticeship to serve in exploration, I would suggest, than at the Ivanhoe Group, working with Robert Friedland. And I know you are one of Robert's favorites. Robert, of course, will be at the symposium. So we'll have the ability to have the master and the acolyte in one room. I'm, as you know, Zach, also very fond of the prospect generator business model for two reasons. As you suggest, you've got tens of millions of dollars worth of exploration funded that I, as a shareholder, didn't have to fund. You didn't have to issue shares for that. Secondly, Zach, what's really important to me is you don't have to explain your projects to me too well. I don't have to understand them. If major mining companies, with all of their geotechnical people, like them, what need do I have to like them? They're spending their money. I'm a lowly shareholder. So congratulations on adopting the only rational form of exploration finance. What I'd like you to talk about, first of all, is the fact that you haven't merely tried, you've succeeded. Tell us something about the discovery that you made. Tell us something about your partner. And tell us something about how the royalty that you retain on that exciting discovery underpins the value of Kenorland.
That's right. Yeah. So soon after we started the company, we set out, staking large projects in Eastern Canada, mainly focused in Quebec and Ontario. One of those projects early on attracted Sumitomo Metal Mining as a partner, so a large Japanese mining company. So they began funding exploration over a number of years. We ended up making a large scale, high grade gold discovery in the Frotet Evans Greenstone Belt, which is northern Quebec, north of the Abitibi. Today, there's over 120,000 meters of drilling into it, around 225 drill holes. It's still pre-resource. The footprint of the deposit is growing rapidly and is still wide open. Kenorland converted its minority interest in the joint venture to a large royalty interest, early last year. That resulted in us now owning a 4% net smelter return royalty on the project, which means we get 4% of the total value of gold that comes out of the ground if it went into production in the future. Sumitomo also became a large shareholder in Kenorland. They own 10.1% of our company. And we have other projects that we're exploring with them as well, which I think says a lot about our team and our capability. The project itself, exploration is underway as we speak there, and so there'll be lots of news coming out on that in the coming weeks and months. And there are some big project milestones in the near future that we're looking forward to, including a maiden resource that's potentially at the end of this year or early next year. And beyond that, there will be some early stage economic studies and potentially a construction decision for Sumitomo to make, which would see them going underground. And of course, as these milestones are reached, I think the value of our royalty will be reflected as it's more de-risked, and people can really start to calculate what that means in terms of Kenorland's intrinsic value.
For the audience, that's important to understand. The resource statement will give you the first sense of what a 4% NSR is worth. If there's 1 million ounces there, that's 40,000 net ounces. 40,000 net ounces where Kenorland doesn't bear any of the upfront capital cost, nor any of the sustaining capital cost, nor the operating expenses. Basically, on those ounces for Kenorland, their gross is their net. Tell me something about the process and tell me something about the other assets. In other words, what are you proposing to do for me next?
Yeah, so ever since that discovery, we've become more and more confident in our exploration strategy, which was looking for prospective areas that were underexplored, and then completing large-scale systematic, mainly geochemical surveys over those large areas to focus in on, the best targets and ideally new targets that hadn't been tested, which is required to make new discoveries. So beyond that, we've staked and acquired over 2 million hectares of ground. I think that's around 4 million acres for those in the U.S. Huge area across Canada, again, mostly focused on Quebec, Ontario, Manitoba. We've got some ground up in Alaska as well. We've attracted a number of other partners since making that discovery with Sumitomo. We worked with Newmont, Barrick, Antofagasta, Freeport, and Centerra Gold, which is another important strategic shareholder. They own 9.9% of Kenorland. I think, what you're going to see this year is a lot of drill tests. We're actually operating five drill programs in the first quarter alone. or the first and second quarter. Most of these are on early stage targets, maiden drill programs, testing new concepts. Of course, these are very high risk endeavors, and the odds of success are always low in grassroots exploration. But again, as Rick said, the benefit to our shareholders is that the most of these are all being tested with budgets that come from these third parties. So Kenorland's not really funding any of that out of pocket. What we put our money towards is generating new ideas, staking more ground, and completing the early stage surveys, required to generate the new targets. And then at that point, we usually bring in, some of these major mining companies or other juniors to fund the high risk and more capital intensive exploration. So, what do you have to look forward to? Well, more of the same. We just keep scaling up the business, scaling up the amount of ground we're exploring, and continually testing new targets in the company without the dilution that you see in a lot of other companies. So there's you have all the benefit and exposure of high risk exploration and potential discovery, but not as much downside.
So, ladies and gentlemen, remember this. You don't have to do the same level of due diligence here you would otherwise do. That due diligence is done for you by Sumitomo, done for you by Barrick, by Newmont, by Centerra. That due diligence has been good enough that two of those companies are major shareholders of Kenorland. It's an important difference. And the fact that those people fund the exploration means that you don't have to. Rather than charging you a fee for the due diligence, they actually lower your cost of capital. I love this business model. I love the results so far. Zach, for those attendees who are coming to the conference and those people who can't make it to the conference but are seeing this interview on social media, if they're interested in finding out more, and they should be, who in particular should they contact, and how do they contact those people?
I would encourage them to reach out to me directly. My email is Zach, Z-A-C-H, @kenorlandminerals.com. And I always have time to speak to new potential investors and existing shareholders. And, there's a lot to learn about the business and the model. So happy to chat with anyone anytime.
Zach, again, thank you for your efforts on behalf of the industry, but thank you in particular for your efforts on my behalf. I am and have been a shareholder for a substantial period of time, and I'm not a happy shareholder. I'm an ecstatic shareholder. Thank you, too, for your ongoing support of the Boca Raton Natural Resources Investment Symposium. I look forward to visiting you there, and I look forward to watching you interact with my attendees. Thank you again.
Thank you, Rick. I really appreciate it. Cheers.